Okay, principles of passion, take one.
It's Principles of Passion.
Molly and I share a passion.
Hey, I am very passionate.
Oh, nice.
It is his passion.
Michael and I share a passion.
Bit of a passion for me.
It's my passion.
I've learned a lot, and I followed my passion.
Here's your host, Chris Thomas, with Denora Robles and Dominic Semino. Streaming live on Facebook at Your Passion First. Principles of Passion.
So thank everyone for tuning in. We're here on Principles of Passion. This is episode number 12. And we have Laura Quintero on the show. Thank you for joining us, Laura. We appreciate it.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously co-hosts Denora Robles and Dominic Semino.
Beautiful people.
As always, thank you for being here. So Laura's a software developer at Maestro Health. And when I reached out to Laura, she was in my network of people on LinkedIn, but I noticed that she seemed to have a passion for mentoring and coaching. So I guess I'll kind of let you dive in a little bit and tell about your story, kind of what you're doing career-wise, and then what you do mentoring and coaching-wise too.
Sure. So my background is in electrical engineering, and I figured out it wasn't really a good fit for me, and I switched on to software development. And I realized that it's not evident for everyone that that is an option. At the time that I knew that I wanted to switch on to development, I would tell myself things like, oh, well, I can't go back to school right now and study computer science. And it would have been nice for me to know or hear that it was possible to find my way into what I wanted to do. So as a result, when I got the opportunity to do mentoring, I went for it. Nice. And it's been very rewarding. I always like to share with people all the opportunities that are available in tech. And also, as a developer, I get contacted by recruiters often. So even though I'm not looking for work, I like to pass it along for the people that I know are trying to get started or are looking themselves.
Sure. Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us. We appreciate it. So on Principles of Passion, you know, what our vision is really to inspire and be inspired. The goal is to bring folks on that have overcome adversity in their career. We did the first 10 principles, and then I asked Laura, being the first person to kind of step outside of those original, to think up a topic that she felt has helped her overcome adversity. And Laura's topic was in the moment, whether it be living in the moment, being in the moment, just in the moment as a whole. So I know that can get tough. We're kind of in a world where there's so many opportunities for different types of distractions. And so I think it's kind of a real sharp paradox that to get where you really need to be depends on what you do in the moment, right? Not so much what you're looking at in the future. So I think it's important to talk about it because there's a lot of younger students that are trying to determine what their passion is, right? Trying to uncover what that is, and they may not be that happy with their current moment. And so how do we share details with them about how we've overcome those moments? So I guess for you to start, I mean, what made you think of that point, and how has that kind of helped you in your career?
I thought of it because it's something that I struggle with all the time. Sure. I'm very much a planner, and I usually have very lofty goals. So it's easy to get overwhelmed or get caught up in the end goal. And so I throughout the years, developed habits to help me stay focused. And also, I learned with experience that whatever it is that you're doing, even though you might not think that it's going to help you down the road, it can, and it usually does in some way, give you a skill set that will help you with what you want to do. For example, like I said, I started in engineering, and once I realized it wasn't a good fit for me, I switched into a role where I was doing more quality control. And I'm usually more of a shy, like introverted person.
Right.
And as part of my role, I had to go and talk to everyone in the company. And it turned out to be really great because I didn't really have a good idea of what a company was like, what the different parts, how it all worked together. So I got to see it firsthand. And I used to have to talk to everyone from an operator to the head of a department. And it was difficult for me to do that. I would sometimes just walk back and forth in front of their door, hoping that they would notice me because I just felt so uncomfortable just walking in.
Sure.
And as a result, now I'm able to talk to anyone at all the places where I work with without feeling intimidated. So at the time, I kind of knew that I wanted to go into development, and it felt like I was not getting closer or learning skills that would help me to get there. And now looking back, I see how valuable that experience is.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it's fighting through the grind, and I think people look for short gain a lot these days, as opposed to understanding that it's going to take time to get to a successful point and to get to the subject matter expert point of a subject, So, you guys want to add anything, Denora? Dom?
No.
Cool.
Who, because women in technology is not something that you see often, right? It's something that's still kind of developing. Who was your role model? Like, who did you look up to or aspire to be when you were entering that field?
To be honest, I don't think I had a role model.
I hear that a lot.
Yes, there weren't any women engineers or developers that were visible at that moment in time. And now that's changed a lot, which is very nice to see. But yeah, I had to get used to being the only woman since I was in college, or once I entered the work world, I would be maybe 10 years younger and the only woman.
And between us girls here, did you ever get intimidated?
I don't know if I felt intimidated by that, but I did felt a little bit out of place.
Okay.
So
In what way? Is it just because it was all males, or because you felt like you couldn't voice your opinion in the right fashion? Or what?
I think that I was treated differently. I used to feel like maybe I wasn't taken as seriously. So people would have the attitude of, "Oh, you're cute," or which it was coming from a good place.
Sure.
But I wanted to be treated equally. Right.
So do you think that was because you were young or because you were female? Or both?
Good question,
I think both.
Yeah.
I think both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes when I talked to people that I looked up to, they would tell me, "Oh, why don't you go into sales?"
Wow.
Which, nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to be a developer. So it's not what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
So maybe that's also one of the reasons that I take opportunities to put myself out there. And
What did you tell yourself though? When we come with those challenges, what were you telling yourself to keep yourself pushing? Like, no, I'm not going to go into sales. Nothing against sales, but I'm not going to go into sales. This is what I'm going to stand in my truth.
I think I'm just the type of person that when I want something, I go for it. And if somebody tells me that maybe that's not what I should do, I like challenges. So it just motivated me to work even
If you're an
harder.
engineer, you definitely love challenges. Those mathematical problems, It's awesome. It's good.
That's good. And I think it's about grinding through it, right? At the end of the day, you have to have a vision, right? And you have to know kind of where you want to be, what space. For you, you knew it was IT, right? You didn't know it was development at that moment, but you ended up grinding through that moment, soaking up what you could from it, and then it propelled you to that next stage. So, that's really what we're talking about today is understanding what that moment is. We'll get towards the end of the show to talk about the emotional aspects of that and how we deal with that. But I think just in the moment, I think there's a lot of things that we can do to kind of soak that up. There's a good quote by Emily Dickinson. She said, "Forever is composed of nows." And it's one that really stuck out to me. I want to say something about it, but Dom, I guess I'll let you dive in and see if you have any thoughts. Yeah, thoughts, opinions about the quote. Does it jar anything for you?
Yeah, it jars a lot. Over last summer, I'd say I read a book. It's called The Power of Now, and that really opened my mind to living in the present. And on top of that, in Stoicism, the belief is, you live for the moment. You don't let your emotions get the best of you. It's just like you have this moment, and it's not really appreciated. So, I mean, it jargoned a lot for me. And one of the things that really stood out was we spend so much time thinking that we don't spend enough time doing the actions. We either think about the future or what we want, which isn't bad, don't get me wrong, but to a certain extent, you're just thinking about thoughts. You're not thinking about actions. And that's my little piece on it.
Yeah. Did you want to add anything to it, Laura? Denora? Either one of you?
Do you guys think, collectively here, that super ambitious people have a hard time living in the now? Because we're always thinking like, I want to go get that house. I want to have that career. I'm not saying that people who are not ambitious.
So,
because I feel like, I'm going to be honest, the hippie dippies, I mean, I'm a hippie myself, right? You kind of live in the now and you kind of go with the flow. I hope I didn't offend anybody. But when you're super ambitious, you're like, no, we got to think about what's the next step. What's the next day? I forget about today. Let's just think about.
I think what we have to do is separate ambition from success, because you can be ambitious and not successful. I think people that are ambitious always want to do something more, but to Dom's point, are they putting action to that thought? Do you know what I mean? It's like you can dream big and have huge aspirations, but if you don't put a plan in place and then take action, it's a wasted plan. It's a wasted thought too. So I think you can be ambitious. I think ambitious people tend to be more successful, but just because you're ambitious, I don't think it defines your success. And that's just me. That's me.
That's a fair point, though.
What do you think?
I could definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I think for some people it comes natural to be in the moment. Some of us have to work at it. And while it's important to have a plan and follow it, you still have to go through the steps, right, of your plan. So it's good to keep in mind as you're going through it to think about what you want to get out of what it is you have to do in that moment, and learn as much as you can from it. And I found that you even move faster if you're absorbing everything that you can, and it brings you closer to your destination than if you're trying to fight it.
Yeah. And it comes back to the plan, because you can be absorbing everything. If your plan's directed the right way, then you're absorbing the right things.
So we always go back to the whole planning process. Like without a plan, we're just
but you also have
floating
to
around Earth. I did that for a
too.
while.
Sometimes your plans don't matter, like gets in the way, or you realize that you need to change it for some reason. So I think it's important to find the balance between being in the moment, having the plan, and then being willing to adjust when something is not working.
Have you always been the person who's in the moment? Or is this something like, I had to adopt this because after life lessons? I've
had to learn, and every day I work hard to stay in the moment because I have a tendency to think too much. So I get caught in my thoughts and miss what's happening in this life. So
Awesome. So I was doing some research. There was a blog by a yoga-based organization. They're called GAIAM. It's GAIAM, but it was called 6 Ways to Live in the Moment. I just kind of turned some of them into questions, want us to be able to just talk on them a little bit. First one, what are some things you do to focus on the now? And if you're tuning in on Facebook or Instagram, I know Anna is over there tuning in a little bit, trying to maneuver the camera as well. What I would say, she will check any questions or comments that you guys have as they come up. So the question now is, what are some things you do to focus on the now? So Laura, I'll let you start there.
I started doing a gratitude journal in the morning at night. It's been very helpful because then I can track every day where I'm at. And also at night, I write what I could have done differently. So sometimes you see some recurring themes. So it's nice to have a kind of like a log of where you're at. And going into situations, like I said before, thinking what I want to get out of that. And what else?
Let me ask you too, with the journal, because I've been doing.
He definitely journals, people.
I've been doing it
He
for a
writes a
while,
book.
but
Anna and I
more
saw it.
intensely. Do you go back and read your journal, and if so, how often do you kind of go back and teach yourself or learn from yourself?
So I lost a couple of my actual journals, so now I use Evernote.
Okay.
What's nice about that is easier to go back and search and find, what by words or titles, so you can look back and find something that applies. One of the things that I started doing for the last year is writing down things like what you did for Christmas Day or birthdays, and it's crazy how much you forget. Right. So even who was there, what you did, brings back a lot and brings you back to the moment. So now I do, but I think the searchable part is a big aspect of looking back on my entries.
Dom, do you journal? Because you're over there really quiet. It's okay. It's
There's like
public.
10 different
Everyone's
thoughts
gonna
running
see
through my
this.
head. I was like,
everyone's going to see
Which
this.
journal are we talking about?
Yeah, I got about
Hardcover,
10, but
pink.
I did have a question to ask. So you say there are some reoccurring ones that you see in your journal. I have the same thing. Like there's a couple in my journal that are reoccurring, and I just would like your perspective on it. When you see the reoccurring ones, would you say like those are priorities to work on more, to progress on since they reoccur more often? Or would you say everything that like in the journal that you go back and reflect on, you kind of try to progress?
I think there's some that, like you said, are priorities. So when I do skip those for some reason, I try to bring them back. Other things are habits that I want to change or start. So I will do it for a long time and kind of stop doing it so they get back in there.
Nice. Okay. All right. That's interesting. But to you guys' point, put me on the spot.
I thought you were shying away from that question over there.
No, I never that. Yeah, I know. That's why I can't. So like I have all my notes in my phone because it's always on me. My phone's always on me, and thoughts come and go. And if you don't have them written down, it could have been something very important. They say that you forget things that aren't important, but I don't know if I necessarily believe in that, because if you think a lot, if you're a thinker like us, it's like you always got something in and out. So you always want to jot something down. So I have mine labeled in different sections, and the one that I'm very fond of is my mindful one. Those are notes that I use to really help me live in the moment. And then on top of that, just to reflect and just keep progressing.
So with your mindful notes, are those like certain quotes that you come across or mantras that you say, or what is that? And I'm not trying to get in your personal, but I'm just trying to, because I know for me.
I could read you like one or two.
I'm interested to know.
We're open here, guys. We're open.
I'm interested
this is a
to know,
family.
seriously.
So these aren't really quotes or mantras. They're kind of things that just hit me one day, and I was like, you know what? That kind of makes sense. So I guess to go along with today's.
Make sure you're talking in your mic.
Yeah.
Don't do what I do.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I guess to go with today's, there's one of two. I'd say this one. Yeah, so it's fate versus free will. Actually, never mind. That's pretty long. So I'll summarize one of them. One of them, I was thinking on the train one day going to work. I was thinking, life is just one big loop. It's full circle, 360. But within life, there are little things that you do, you set into routines, and you have to decide, do you want to keep doing this? And it's a loop. And if you don't like it, you have to break the loop. But loops will keep going on. You just have to find those right loops that you really want that are good for you, and to correct the bad ones. And that's like something I go off of every day. and it helps me to stay in the moment because I think about things before doing them a second time. So it's like I would say it's very helpful. So that's one of them. They're not really mantras or quotes.
Okay. No,
Just kind of things I have.
That's bigger and better than any mantra quote I ever heard. So no, that's good stuff, man. Good. I was gonna say too to the next question. What are some tips paying attention to small things that we can do? That's great. Any other ones that you guys use?
So tips.
To pay attention to the small things.
Just be mindful, be in the present moment. Yeah. Like even when you eat or when you go out with your friends. Like I love having dinner with friends because I don't use my phone, believe it or not. I don't. And I'm literally present there in the moment and just taking in everything. And it's just taking that moment to do that. Yeah. We don't do that enough though. We're too stimulated. There's just too much going on for us and we're constantly stimulated. Even with my phone right now, I'm like looking, it's we just have to be mindful about it. Take a step back.
And I think another thing that has helped me is when I'm in an uncomfortable situation, rather than trying to avoid it, force myself to work through it.
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah. It
takes a lot of discipline.
Man, you're one brave woman because sometimes you just, turn around and run away.
Yeah, but I feel like it's kind of like feedback from yourself and from the choices that you're making. So rather than running away from it, I found that it's better just to think about why are you uncomfortable, and if it's something that you need to avoid, and don't put yourself in that situation, or if there's something that you're struggling and you want to bring attention to and work on.
So self-awareness and just having the emotional intelligence, and we always loop back to that because I think at the end of the day that's what it is. It's just being aware of your shortcomings and your greatness, right?
Right.
That's awesome.
I think that's hard to do. I think in terms of understanding your own mind and disciplining it is very tough.
Yes.
I know one thing that's helped me, well, two things. I think working out and starting P90 last year helped me out a lot to really get through the 90 days of it and just to constantly do something every day that I didn't really want to do. Like no one really, some people like working out. I like having a good body. I like feeling good about myself. I don't really like going and working out. I like being able to push myself through something that I don't really want to do and knowing that I accomplished it at the end of the day, even though I didn't want to do it. And I think the second thing is I did, and I still, because it's a lifestyle, I'm doing intermittent fasting. I don't do it every day because some days I can't work out at night. But on the days that I can go the whole day, I think that the way that translates is when you fight the feeling of hunger, it's the same feeling that you get when you are fighting little tedious things in your day that you don't want to do. It's just overcoming it, and it's that same hunger pain where you're like, oh, it's like really. I got a headache. Drink some water. You don't really need food. Make your bed.
Brave.
You don't really need to wait. You know what I mean?
I do.
No food, never.
So
life.
those have helped me. I think that those two things, just that discipline and that mindset to do things you don't really want to do, and it got me opened to simple things of just like picking up a coffee cup and putting it away instead of walking away from it. Just little things. So
I think it helps us because we've been through the traumas and the life lessons because we're older. But what about the younger people? I don't think
discipline. It's all. I think in the moment.
I'm 16 years old. What does that look like?
What does it look like? It means if you're 16, then you take your butt to school and you get straight A's, and then you have fun with what you like in your classes. Right?
And sports, right? Would you say sports is another way of?
Everyone can like
so.
sports, right? You should like a sport, but school you should like too. You shouldn't. I think some people get bored with school because I did when I was in high school. I didn't have a vision. My parents were like, just go, be good at something. Just go, you'll find out. With my son, he already knows he wants to be an engineer. He wants to build stuff.
We got a good
I'm
role model right
ingraining
here.
that in him right now at 6.
Latina role model right here.
Right. But I think it's the vision first and the plan, and that helps you see the little stuff. But when you're so all over and you don't even know where you're trying to get, then everything can look like something that you're trying to get. But once you hone it in, it's like, okay, can pick this, I can pick this. Look at this little thing, look at this little thing.
It can take a long time, though. I mean, for me, it definitely took a long time, and it wasn't easy when I realized that I didn't want to be an engineer, because I worked hard to be an engineer. People assume I'm good in math. I'm not great in math. I just did the work. And
Disciplined.
yeah, if it's one of those things where if you spend the time, I was determined, and so I got there. And it was good to see also when I was going through school that one of my friends worked very hard. He wasn't the smartest one in the class, but he was very disciplined. And he has a PhD in electrical engineering right now. He's very successful. So it was nice to have somebody like that and see that, it's not just because you have a natural ability that you're going to do well, that
That's
you
a
can
good point.
also excel if you
work.
just
Work hard.
work hard.
Take the time. Be
Right.
patient, yeah.
But like you said, if you don't have the vision, if you don't know where you're going with it, it can be hard to find the motivation to do the work. And certainly in high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do.
That was my next question. Did you know? Because like when you're 17, 18, you're fresh out of high school, you're like, okay, well, what do I do now? Did you really say I'm going to go into engineering, or
No.
did you just kind of toy around and, mess around in the hallways in college until you figured it out?
I mean, in high school, I didn't know. And even going into college, I wasn't sure. I just kind of figured that I wanted to learn more about math and science. And
Really?
I didn't even know what the different engineering disciplines did. My uncle is a civil engineer, so I was like, okay, that sounds good.
Good.
I'll try that. And it wasn't until I had my first internship in engineering that I kind of figured out what the different disciplines were and what a career in engineering would even look like. So I feel like the best advice that I can give to people that don't know what they want to do is to try different things and be patient. I know it doesn't seem like, I don't know, everybody says that there's no like concrete path for everybody. Just try and, see and blah, blah, blah. But it truly is through the relationships that you build as you're trying different things, when you talk to people about what they're doing, that your world starts opening up and you get a better idea of what direction to head in next.
So it's kind of like in Europe and in Spain. I mean, people don't go to college until like 25 or so, because they had mentioned that you should travel, see the world first, and get to know who you are first. And then by 25, you're already an adult enough to know, I'm going to go ahead and finish college and do stuff. Do you guys agree with that? Or is that something? Yeah. Do you guys agree with that statement?
I agree
it's
with
a good option. Go ahead.
I agree with the point of you finding yourself. There's a lot of things they teach in schools, but finding yourself is something you have to do on your own. And, in one side you have academics, and the other side you have people telling you what they want you to be or this vision for you. But at the end of the day, it's like you're still trying to find out who you are, and you have all this stuff. So in that aspect, I really agree with finding yourself, because that's the first step in, having your passion and following it and living an enjoyable life.
And do you agree with that too, or?
I agree. And I don't think there's anything wrong with getting a general degree because you don't know what you want to do next. I feel that you're not locked in. Even if you're in a career for a long time, I don't think you're locked in. There's people that change careers later on in their lives. So
as long as you don't do it 20 times in 1 year, we're good, right?
I mean, if that's what makes you happy, but it doesn't sound ideal.
Didn't work out for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, too, you have to do what makes you happy. And I think that a lot of people struggle with that because they're looking just to put food on the table.
Yes.
And so I asked this question because I think that when you're working a job that may not be your dream job, you can still find your passion and dream through helping and giving back. So are there organizations that you're going to Hustle
Summit.
Summit. So
yes.
organizations that you give back to religiously or that you really like that kind of feed through to your passion.
So Find Spark is a company that is focused on helping people find jobs and job fairs, and kind of changing a little bit of how that process works, networking, all of that. And I've been a mentor with them. I think this is going to be my third year. And I thought it was really fun. I was excited by the opportunity to talk to people and tell them about what I did and help them get into the field if that's what they wanted. So that's when I realized that that's something that I enjoy doing. So I do it on my own. You often catch me telling people that, if they want to get into tech, they can do it. I think because people think that you have to be really good at math or you have to be technically inclined to be in the tech world. And that's what keeps them from trying.
Right.
And that's not at all true. And in fact, having a different skill set adds value to a lot of teams and makes them more well-rounded and have a better product at the end.
Right.
So that's one of the things that I talk about when I do mentoring. And there's a few other organizations in Chicago where they teach coding for free to kids, or
Awesome.
so I don't do any of them regularly. If I have free time, I'll find one that I can go and
Sure.
and do work with. Wheel Code is one that comes to mind.
Okay.
Yeah, and their classes are free for kids between, I believe,
Wheel
7 and
Code?
17. Wheel
We'll post
Code.
it.
We all code.
Yeah.
So can I ask you a question? Is personal thought here, and forget about statistics. Why do you think that there's not enough women or young girls pursuing technology? Like, what pushes them away?
I think part of it is that since we're kids, boys get to play with trucks and planes, and we get dolls and, teapots and whatnot. So that's changing, and it's good to see. I think that's part of it.
Parenting.
Yeah, and society. I don't know, guys, if you're listening, saying that you don't look like an engineer is not a compliment. I don't think that being a woman should make it surprising that I can be good in technology or math. And so I think that growing up, not having the role models, not having early introduction to toys or things that would create that curiosity to go into the field is part of it.
So once there's more women speaking out about it or speaking of it,
Right.
then yeah, more women,
And
more young girls.
also,
into it.
if you follow, there's a bunch of different groups on Instagram now that post about accomplishments that or contributions that women have done in math and science and STEM in general. Yeah. And it's very exciting to see. Whenever I find those, I repost because I didn't have that.
I'm going to
growing
join you
up.
on that one.
Yes.
That's cool. You guys too, okay?
No.
Repost
yeah.
that.
And
Repost
for
I
that.
think
So
the
many women.
military has helped a lot
Yeah.
with corporate America in terms of bringing women up through the ranks in corporate America.
It's still a challenge.
It definitely is. It definitely
There's still
is.
discrimination.
Yeah.
Not that I want to
it's-
label myself, but
Well, it's a challenge for women. It's a challenge for underrepresented as a whole. People of color. It's a challenge, and I think the challenge comes in where there's not enough people of color and diversity
good point.
up top.
Yes,
And
good
so
point.
people coming in down low don't really see the top because they see no one that they relate to. And so I think that can be concerning. I think, one thing that we're trying to do at Purpose Workforce is create a wraparound program to help those younger generation get in, but create a loop, right? Where we're talking to their hiring managers, we're talking with them, we're helping them get immersed and retain employees more so that they can climb those ranks in their own shell while they're following their passion.
And we were having like just a casual conversation the other day that we weren't trying to be labeled, and we weren't trying to say, oh, because I'm a Latin woman or you're a black man, that this is the reason why we can't achieve what we want to achieve. It was more about skill sets. because I've always lived by my skill sets. I really didn't look at gender, color, or anything. I was like, okay, I'm good at what I do, and I'm probably one of the top, and I'm gonna get there.
Right.
But I never labeled myself. But do you think that's something that people are misusing right now and using it as a crutch? Do you guys think that? Like labeling yourself, well, I'm a woman, like really couldn't get it to the top, or, you know.
I think you have to look at reality.
Yeah.
You have to look at the numbers. It doesn't make it impossible. It's difficult, I think, for anyone to make it to the top. It's more difficult for women and people of color to excel those ranks.
I could see both sides.
And that's just the reality of it. It is changing, though. And
Yeah, I
just,
can definitely
the
attest to
change?
that, to see more women in the field and the people that I'm working with
That's
and whatnot,
good.
to see more diversity since I started.
Yeah, I
for
hope we get
sure.
to a point that we're not saying any more of the labeling ourselves or anything anymore. I hope we get to that point.
It's-
That it's
and you
about
know what?
skill sets,
It's-
not about.
it's the workforce change going on right now in the world, where organizations are okay with people not having degrees. Degrees have always been a sign of your stature, your financial income, right?
True.
And now it's not anymore. And so people without money
There's a
are
shift.
able to learn new skills and get into the workforce versus, creating a $80,000 debt, right, for college. So I think that's why it's opening the doors, because
We're looking at
it's not so
skills.
much you have to have money to know something anymore. You just have to work hard and grind to know it, and be patient and get there.
And do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff, you guys. So there was another article in Psychology Today. It was a couple years back by Jay Dixit, and it was called The Art of Now, and it's 7 steps to living in the moment. The first one was, remember first that you are not your thoughts.
That's a tough one.
What would you guys say to that? Dom? What would you
We
say?
all looked at you for some reason.
Dom is our philosophical
philosopher
guru,
in the
if you guys haven't
He really is.
noticed.
You got wisdom for
Not
all
to
of
put
us.
you on the spot or anything.
No, you're good. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at when we opened with today's episode. Is just you're not your thoughts, but it's very, very easy to get caught up thinking you are your thoughts, because who else knows you better than you, right? In your mind. So in that aspect, I definitely agree with that, and it comes with self-discipline, it comes with emotional awareness, and it comes with a lot of strength. And I say strength because you have to understand the difference between you and your thoughts, and you have to understand that whatever they tell you, you can't let them discourage you, because in the end, you know what you want, and if it scares you, that's a good thing, because it shows you how much you want it and how scared you are to lose that, and it fuels you. So I could keep going on with this. I love this.
Love it. There was a quote by Henry David Thoreau, and he said, "You must live in the present, launch yourself on every wave, find your eternity in each moment. Fools stand on their island of opportunities and look toward another land. There is no other land. There is no other life but this." It's pretty deep.
Powerful.
It's pretty deep. And I throw random quotes because I love quotes, but I think that they always bring me into that person's mindset of the time that they were in. And we're in a different time now, but we're still looping.
Yeah.
It's still the same things kind of going on. It's just, how do we deal with them now with all of the media, right? That's what's changed. I think that's what's opening people's eyes up more. But at the end of the day, it's trying to still live in that moment. Laura, this one's for you. What do you do to avoid worrying about the future?
Huh.
She took a deep sigh on that one.
That's a tough one.
Agreed.
Yeah, I feel like everyone worries about the future. No, I don't think I can stop. I feel like I've just learned to become acquainted with the feeling and use that as a motivation rather than trying to fight it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's all I've got.
I think where where I've seen people worry the most about the future is when they feel they have no control over the present.
Oh yeah.
Because you can always think about what might happen, but the only thing you have control over is what you can do about it right now in this moment. And I think people forget to do that. They forget to check off boxes A, B, C, and D, and F, and G, and all of them, you know, and they just get so narrow-minded that they only think, oh, my God, what if this happens? It's like, well, what if that doesn't happen? But what if you do A, B, and C to contradict that from happening?
Right.
And then you've actually built 4 bridges for yourself
So
as opposed to
prepare.
burning one, you know?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, preparing helps. And if you're ready for your worst case scenario, that helps.
Yeah, prepare for the worst. And
Hope for the best.
Yep.
best. Yeah, for sure. Anna, how you doing over there? Good? Yeah? No comments? No. Any on Instagram?
Yeah.
Do you guys see the sunset?
Oh. All right, cool. Next question is for Denora.
Oh, what we're going down the line here?
It's about time. You guys kept looking at me.
I'll take it for 500, please.
Less of a question and more of tell me what you think when I say this. Don't just do something, sit there.
Is that like towards me first? Like, is that like
It's
passive aggressive? Are you just being passive aggressive right now? I'm taking that personal.
friend of 10 years. No,
Yeah,
it's not.
Too long. Just sit there. Yeah, I could do that. Just sit there and just kind of absorb everything. Yeah, of course.
That's it, right? Is that
Why am I confused on this question?
It's a hard because it was less
Why
of a
is this
question.
a little awkward right now?
Because for 2 reasons. Because it's the way that it's worded, it is a little confusing.
I
It's
do that
not a
during-
question.
It do that during meditation. Like I just sit there and let it
that's
be.
what I'm trying to. That's what I'm
I
trying to
do
get at.
meditate.
Yes.
Yeah, when I sit through my meditation, I just let my thoughts just flow, and even if they're crazy or good or bad, I'm just like, do whatever you want up there, and I'm just sitting in peace. And then it's almost like when I do that, it's released because I'm not going back to what you said. I'm not fighting it. I'm just letting it flow.
Yeah.
Without reacting to it, because you don't want to let certain thoughts flow and then react to that. So you want to avoid that.
Right.
But yeah.
Great. Yeah. No,
Did I
that's
get
exactly.
500? Did I answer that
was
question
perfect.
correctly?
That-
Okay, 500. You guys want to be on my team on Jeopardy next time? Is it Jeopardy? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know now.
She's like,
I don't
"I'll be on
watch
her
game
team."
shows.
Right.
I'll be on your team.
See, I feel so confident. She's like, I'm on her team. Thank you. I like her.
And there's so much chaos in this world right now. Again, the plan, I'm going to keep saying that. I'm going to keep reiterating it. You have to have a plan. With all the chaos, if you don't step back for a minute and just control what you can control and let your mind let go of the rest, you're going to drive yourself insane. You are. Because there's
You can't stress about the things you can't control.
Right.
It's just the controllables. And anything that's out of it,
Yeah. And there are people that are going to try and pull you away from what you need to be doing. And there are things that are going to pull you away from what you need to be doing. You have to focus. I'm missing my son's game tonight. It's the first game I've missed in a year. It is what it is. In that token, in terms of sacrificing, I got asked to be co-president of the PTO. So it's like I'm weighing what I'm sacrificing. Do you know what I mean? I really want to go. I really want to do the show, but I know I'm going to give back in another area. So I think it all comes down to just that balance of understanding what your vision is and how to do it daily, and knowing that some days may not work out so well, but if your vision is on point, you're gonna
Right,
you're
if
gonna
you
get
know
there.
your priorities,
Yeah.
right?
Good point.
Yeah, for sure. Ralph Waldo Emerson, he said, life is a journey, not a destination.
Agreed. Enjoy the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if you start looking at life as like, now I'm gonna sound like a guru here. If I came here for that experience, I think things get a little bit better. Because every time I'm having a tough time, that's what I say. I'm here for the experience. I want to feel what it feels to be bad. I want to feel what it feels to be angry. And I'm just gonna let that be. I just came to that just recently, but I think it softens the blow a little bit. I mean, how do you
It's a
guys?
game.
And everything is temporary too.
I love that. Yes, everything
Yeah.
is temporary.
So the good things also, but when you're going
I
through
didn't
a
like
tough,
that one. Take
yeah,
it back.
right.
Take it back. Take it back.
But it's a balance. You can't have the good
But
without
if
the
you're
bad.
struggling through something, eventually things are going to change. So it helps to think about that when you need to stay strong.
That is so true.
For sure. Ups and downs of life. So the hard part of living in the moment is the emotional part, right?
Again, you're looking at me.
I'm
Again, he's looking at me.
Maybe there's a reason. Maybe there's not. You know, I'm just saying. I know you kind of well.
You know this
Just
is
saying.
public. You know this is public. Okay.
In the moment, I think that we can lose sight of what our focus is sometimes because you can have heightened states of emotion. And I'm sure we've all gone through that at some point. Some of us probably
I'm
deal with it a
Latina,
little
so
bit.
I know all about I know a lot
I'm
about
just
that.
saying. Y'all talk before the show? Y'all talk? Okay.
We're just about to
I'm
just
saying.
sister vibe.
I'm just saying.
I think it gets misconstrued. I think that's what it is.
The fact that you know it. though,
Passion. It's the principles of passions.
I think culturally we're just very comfortable with emotions, and that's not the case, especially here in the U.S. I found. So it
gets
sometimes
misinterpreted.
it makes people feel uncomfortable.
Guys, it's showing people love.
No,
We're
yours
showing
does not get misinterpreted. It is very direct. There is no misinterpretation.
Those that know me. Those that know me. I know, but I agree with you. I think sometimes it's a form of speaking, and we speak with our hands, and we're very animated, and it could be misconstrued. But there is a little bit of positive emotion, I would say, behind that. And Anna's looking at me over there. Yes, Anna too. Okay, great. The girls are giggling.
And you know what? I've had to learn, for me, and I don't know if I always saying like as a black male, I hate just classifying that because I grew up with a black mom and a white stepdad.
Yeah.
Love my dad; he's been in my life the whole time, but I never looked at color. But what I've noticed is that I feel like I get looked at differently if I'm being too boisterous. Is that the right word?
But it's cultural. I think we have to stop looking at it's black, Latino. It is a cultural thing, and it's regional.
Right.
To be honest with you, so it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think,
I feel like I've had to learn to tone it down, honestly.
I'm
Me
not toning
too.
anything too much
Yeah, I
down.
had to learn to tone it down.
Especially from a
Time and a place for everything.
sales perspective and marketing. Like when you're trying to reach an audience, I've had to learn how to see how they want to hear me, as opposed
Right.
to speaking to them the way I want them to hear me. I've had to reverse it and like play the consultative role of like, hey, let me see who you are, where you're coming from, before I just give you all of me.
Well,
Because
there's
I
a
don't-
time and a place. I think, what did you call it last time? Was it code switching or,
Yeah, cool.
But it's not really that. It's just at work, there's a different hat you put on, right? And there's a different hat if you're a teacher. There's a different hat if you're a parent. I mean, it's just wearing different hats. It's not really changing.
Yeah,
But
you're
it
right.
tweaking.
comes down to communicating effectively.
I agree with that.
So if you're being too aggressive or too loud, then usually the other person is not more willing to listen to you.
Yeah.
That's true. There's
So
some.
that's what I
Tone
mean when I said that I
everything,
had
yeah.
to tone
Yeah.
it down.
I can't see you being aggressive and loud and.
People
Not
say
in a bad
that.
way.
Everybody
I mean,
says that.
I mean that's a compliment. That's amazing. I mean,
I guess it takes a while, or it's only in certain circumstances. Usually with work, I'm pretty even keel because
I think
I
work is
don't
like no
take it
emotion.
personally. We're all there doing our best, and
it's work. It's nothing
right.
personal. There's like
I
emotions
think
on the
it's-
side.
It's more on my personal life where I've had to do more work to focus on what I want to achieve, on what I want to communicate, and understand that my delivery makes a difference.
I agree.
Delivery.
No, I
It's
definitely
tough.
agree with that.
I'm
Yeah.
still working on that.
I'm still working on it too.
Cool. What else do you guys have? Dom, any advice on
How to tone it
deal with
down?
emotion in the moment?
Give us a quote.
Easy.
Dom's always
That's it. That's
so
all I get.
calm
Easy.
and
How to
chill.
bring it down a notch.
I'm sorry.
No, it's just
What was it?
so this is a tougher question for me to ask you because you're always so chill and chill in the moment. So
It's a battlefield
really
at all
appreciate
times. It's more composed outside, but
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that about you. Even outside of the radio, we've always had just very calm, enlightening conversations. But what advice would you give to folks that can sometimes lose or take a conversation the negative route in the moment, or let their emotions get the best of them in the moment? Like, what's some advice you would give to someone in that situation?
I would say in that situation, it's a lot easier said than done. So I don't expect people to take this very surface, but you just have to take that extra second or two, and even if you do get lost, it's like catch-22 is like sometimes if you do get lost in that thought and it takes a negative route on you, you have to take that step back and you have to acknowledge that thought and tell yourself, these are my emotions. This isn't me. Like, this isn't what I want. You know what you want. And that other thought is probably fighting you on it because it's all your doubts. It's all your insecurities, everything. And just know that you're here because you overcame that every day and you still do.
So you're saying that emotional outburst is a form of desperation and not understanding or
I'd say emotional outbursts are
insecurities?
regression.
Ooh.
It's just you stay so calm for so long and then you just let it build out. But in reality, it's like you just have to accept those emotions, understand that they're not you, but go through them, understand where they're coming from. So I'm really big into yoga and spirituality. So in my aspect of it, there's two things you have: your intuition and your heart. And you have to label where those feelings are coming from. And if they're not coming from your gut, then those are your emotions. And if they're coming from your emotions, you have to, I don't want to say label, I want to say identify either, but understand why you feel a certain way from that emotion. Because your gut is telling you what you're going to do. Your intuition will tell you this is the right way to do something. Your emotions will get in the way of that. With that being said, you just have to understand your emotions and accept them.
Check your
I'll
gut.
be waiting for your book.
Check your gut. Yeah, right. For real, you got a book going?
Yeah, he's gonna have a book
I got a couple
going.
writings.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
be
I think I
managing
might.
that.
What year is it? By the end of next
2020.
2020, August?
Yeah.
Poetry book.
10%. I'll be managing you.
Cool.
We'll talk later.
That's fine.
Let's get on
Contracts.
it. That's awesome, man. We got a few minutes left. Let me take a step back and ask Laura, closer to the mic, not all the way step back. In a dream world, what would you be doing right now, or are you doing it?
I would say I'm doing it. There's also other things that I would like to do in addition to development. I like telling stories, so I worked on, or I'm intending to work on personal projects with some friends and finding different mediums for telling these stories. But as a career,
What kind of stories?
anything,
Yeah.
just about my personal experience or observations,
Yeah.
or
Do you like bring those stories to life? Like digitally,
right.
or-
So far, I've only written them down,
Okay.
and I realized that writing a book is not for me. I think partly because I spend so much time in front of a computer typing away. So I don't want to spend so many hours of my day doing that. So I right now looking for other outlets for this story. So I'm in the process of doing that. So I would add that to what I'm already doing. But
Podcast? Maybe?
yeah,
In the- on the
I
horizon?
like
Yeah.
podcasts. I've been enjoying my time here. But I am passionate about technology because it affects our lives more and more. And it's exciting when you build something and you see it work. It's a little bit addicting, it's like a small victory Even though sometimes it can be challenging when, it just seems like there's so much to learn or you can't figure something out. So at the beginning of my career, I would get very stressed and worried that I wouldn't be able to figure it out at this point. I have enough confidence to know that I just need to stick through it and ask for help when needed. But
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. And that's huge, to any students listening out there. Dig through, appreciate the moment, and ask for help. Like if you don't have help, then ask us and we'll find you help. I'll help you, or I'll find someone that's in your field, whether it be IT, HR, office, finance. I'll find you someone to help you, guide you, or mentor you. But the world is filled with too many great people for folks to not have help and resources to get what they need. As I always do, we have a couple of career fairs coming up, so I will go over those. There is the Law Career Fair, Law Jobs for Humans, and it is tomorrow at 1 p.m. at the Ritz-Carlton downtown. It's 160 East Pearson Street. And then there's Job News USA Chicago Job Fair in Arlington Heights, and it's at the International Race Course, which is 2200 West Euclid, Arlington Heights. And then there's the Multi-Profession Diversity Job Fair of Oak Brook, and that one is at the Embassy Suites by Hilton Chicago. The address is 707 Butterfield Road. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, our mission here is to aspire to inspire and be inspired. It's a tough world out there. There's a lot of people that are going through different types of challenges, overcoming different types of barriers as they try and either find their passion, define it, or follow it. And we want to be a platform where people can feel the ability to speak openly about those. I think we get lost in the grind sometimes. And I think people that haven't found that passion yet don't appreciate the grind yet. So I think it's really just helping them hear stories about people that are following that passion and that are going through that grind. I'll leave you with a couple of points. Stop waiting for tomorrow to come. Set up a plan today and take action. Enjoy and engage in the process. Find out what's holding you back and talk with someone about it within the next 24 hours. If you don't know anyone, come talk to me and I'll get you connected. I'm sure everyone on the show more than willing to.
More than willing.
Connect with us on Facebook. We're all on Facebook. You on Instagram?
I am.
Instagram. So we will make sure that we have everyone's information up. So feel free to reach out to anyone. Don't let your past hold you back from living in the present. There's some things you can change and some things you can't. Just make sure you've done everything in your power to control all the things you can and accept the things you can't and move on. Remember, if you don't put your passion first, it's hard to chase your dreams. Thank you for tuning in. This is Principles of Passion. Hope everyone has a great week. Thank you.